Well, a lot of questions about the book and about you starting to write. Let's start with the book, and we'll circle back and talk about what getting serious about writing looks like, and getting to this point of having a debut novel launching.
Sure.
Where you're about to experience a whole new emotional phase of this once you start getting widespread reader feedback and folks come back to you.
Yeah. It's even now, with people reading advanced reader copies, when people write things like on Twitter, um, I just keep thanking everyone. I'm just like, thank you for reading my book. Thank you for reading. I know that at some point I'm going to have to stop because hopefully there'll be too many people to thank. But I'm just really grateful that people are reading it and seem to be responding well. I got a good Kirkus review, and that was really exciting, because Kirkus can be a little bit harsh.
I
Let's
was
use
just
that word.
getting deadly quiet. Like, I would like for the record to say that I think Kirkus is a wonderful publication, and I have nothing but
I do.
amazing
I do too. I do too. But I think that I think that when you get a good review and they're only saying good things, it's really meaningful. When you get a good review and it's kind of like you have to do pull quotes, like, oh, these are the good things they said, and those are the bad things they said, or the not great things they said. And my review wasn't that way at all. It was just all good. And it was such a surprise to me because I was expecting something really critical because that's what they're known for. They're known for being critical. I don't mean critical like in a bad way necessarily, but just like really critical. And I didn't get any of that. And it was just such a surprise to me. I mean, I don't think I wrote a bad book, but you expect criticism. So yeah.
Yeah, they're hard to impress, but you've impressed them, so well done.
Who knew?
So, with the book Ruby and Daisy, we spend some time with them before the, I don't know, inciting incident is what I would call the death of one of the characters, but maybe I'm wrong. Do you think that's the inciting incident, or does it happen before that?
I think that um, I think we could call that the inciting incident, and I think that it probably even says what happens on the back jacket. So I don't think it's a spoiler to say that this is a book about Daisy and her friend Ruby dies. It's not really a spoiler because it's right there on the cover.
My advanced reader copy says, "Then the unthinkable happened." So as I was,
Oh, did I just spoil it then?
How spoilery do we want to get?
This part out? I don't know. I better read the jacket copy again.
If I say there's a death, have I ruined the book? I don't think so. I think that
I don't.
happened
I don't.
early
I
enough.
yeah. I don't think that. I don't think it will spoil it. I really don't. And I wouldn't want anyone going into reading the book thinking that they were reading, like, I would, like, having that take someone by surprise would almost be mean. You know what I mean? Not everyone wants to read a book like that. So
On the other hand, if they miss that, they don't read the back, and they get in there, hey, maybe you wouldn't have read it, but you're in it now.
right,
You might as
right,
well go through
right.
it and complete this emotional journey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, when did you know that this was going to be a book centered around death? Do you start with an initial idea of the plot, or?
So here's what happened. I was trying to write this novel, and because I'm an agent, and busy with that, and because I'd written a manuscript before, but it was really hard for me um, to kind of like gauge how much I actually knew about writing a novel. I like reading and critiquing, which is part of being an agent. I knew that that was a strong, like I knew that that's a strength of mine. But like the creation, I was very insecure about. So I decided that I would get some structure because I do well with structure. And I applied to an MFA program um, at the New School in New York City, and I wrote the beginning of the novel, which was what I worked on in the MFA program. Side note, don't think you need an MFA to write a novel. I think many people don't have an MFA, don't have a college degree. That is just what I did. But that's what worked for me. So I got some structure by being in this MFA program. And in the final semester, we had to write a thesis. And basically, we had to, you didn't have to write the whole novel, but you had to write a good chunk of it. I think like the first 75 pages or something like that. I don't remember. But I went into the first meeting with my thesis advisor with like, I think 50 pages. And, we talked and realized that like 30 of those pages were going in the garbage. So I kind of really went back. And then through critique with, my fellow students, I was really looking, it was still that book Weirdos. Like at that point, it was still Weirdos. And my classmates were like, but like, why is she that way? Why is she that way? Why is she that way? Just like looking at the main character. And what I did was I wrote a series of vignettes about Daisy, like things that had happened to her when she was growing up. And they were things that had happened to me as when I was growing up, because where I write is from a personal place. And they were like fictionalized, but like I lost a friend when I was in second grade, totally different situation. But what I saw was that what was at the heart of this character was all of these losses. And I guess that was something that I experienced. So it ended up that that one of the vignettes was, the one about losing a friend, really resonated. And from there, I reluctantly dug in, and my thesis advisor, who was Jill Santopolo, who is an amazing editor, I said to her, but do we really need like another book about a kid losing their best friend? I said, we have, uh, oh my gosh, two books that I love.
Bridge to Terabithia, maybe?
No, which my book has been compared to, which I don't even, I don't. No, the A Question of Miracles by Alana Arnold, and The Thing About Jellyfish by two fantastic books, like really, really fantastic books, about kids who lose their best friend. So I said to Jill, I was like, we don't, we have these two amazing books. Why do we need another book? And what she said was, but we don't have a book about a kid who loses their best friend written by you. I was like, what am I going to bring to it? Right. Well, turns out very different things than those other two books brought. So I just trusted her, and I trusted myself, and I just wrote the thing. And then, I also never intended to write a book. I didn't know I was going to write a book that had all of these Jewish elements in it. But, when I was dealing with a kid who was grieving, I went back to my own culture, and leaned in really heavily to my own culture. So the book has a lot of Jewish elements in it, which I hope will also be something that kids can take away. Jewish kids will be able to see themselves and their, culture, even though there's so many ways of being Jewish. To have Jewish characters in a book is good for Jewish kids, and then for kids who aren't Jewish to like be exposed to a different culture, and a different, oh, I didn't know that, and what's that word? I better Google that. But none of it was intentional. Like I didn't start out saying I'm going to do this. I just really lean when things came up, when opportunities came up, like, oh, maybe I'll put a Jewish prayer in here. I just leaned all the way into it, and I just trusted that it would work. I don't know how I trusted that it would work, but I did. Because like other writers, I am riddled with self-doubt. So
Well, hopefully all of your clients and future clients are listening, and they're just feeling this great relief come over them. Like, yes, she knows. She feels what we feel.
You know, I talk to my clients a lot, so they know. I also am not shy on Twitter, so all of that self-doubt gets tweeted out into the universe like everyone else does. It's wonderful to watch. So,
So something about the story. Now that I know that we don't have to call it the unthinkable. We can call it the death,
yeah.
um, which is the inciting incident. There's some things that happen
Hmm.
thematically that set us up later, but it
Hmm.
is ways that I didn't do an exact page count, maybe 50, 60 pages before we get to that.
Hmm.
So we're spending some time with the girls. They're watching Captain Marvel, which reminded me,
Hmm.
oh, I need to watch Captain Marvel again. It's been too long since I've seen.
Everyone should.
So
Yeah.
yeah, your enthusiasm came through. Like, oh, that's not casual. Linda Epstein must be a Captain Marvel fan.
I'm a Marvel cinematic. I'm a Marvel fan. I really am, and I describe myself as I love Marvel movies, even the bad ones, and I think because some of them were from a long time ago and maybe aren't as um sensitive as they could be now. But I love I wasn't a comics reader, but I love like book movies. I lean more towards Marvel than DC. I don't know why, I just do. And I really, what I love about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is when you look at all of these movies, um, what they did is they told this gigantic story, right? Um, and you didn't really know that, like, Thor would somehow be connected to Iron Man. I mean, like, eventually, Avengers, all these characters come together. But when you look at, like, and it's like a lot of movies, right? It's like there are character arcs that get spun out over the different movies. There are narrative arcs, this big story. And as a writer, I just find it so inspiring and interesting. And I like comic books. I like superheroes. So I couldn't help putting, like I said, there's a little bit of me like so much of me in that book. There's like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and the Jewish thing and the Marvel thing and the yoga thing. So yeah.
I love the interconnected universe, except when I don't. My example would be like for the Defenders. I absolutely love the world of Daredevil. That's probably my favorite Marvel character, neck and neck with Spider-Man for my favorite Marvel character.
Hmm.
I love Jessica Jones, love Luke Cage. Really don't care for Iron Fist. So, oh, why is his terrible universe intertwined with my favorite characters? Get him
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
of there.
I don't know. I have favorite characters. I do lean towards the strong female characters because I like to think of myself as a strong female character, and I like to write strong female characters. So,
The other thing
um,
comes along is when you're dealing with somebody like I just saw the Doctor Strange. Like, oh my God, there's a multiverse of madness. This
I didn't see it.
oh well, no spoilers. But the common thing for all of the post Avengers Marvel movies is that this
Mhm.
feels like an Avengers level threat. Why don't you call your friends? Where are they at?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I just started rewatching again. I think I'm like, from beginning to end. I start with Iron Man um, and go through. There are two different ways you can watch the Marvel movies. You can watch them in the order that they came out, which I kind of like to do, or you can watch them in the chronological order. So, like the first one being Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel. I'm sorry,
Captain America.
Captain America, because that is set back in during World War II, and then you have Captain Marvel, which is like the 80s. So yeah, so I'm doing it again. I think it's the third or fourth time I've done it. So time.
I think technically now it's the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is the first Marvel movie. Technically, since he's through No
Right,
Way Home, he's now the first Avenger.
right. So
Although the
funny.
Eternals maybe is the I don't know. I can't figure out
Oh,
the.
I don't know either. I jury's out for me on the Eternals. I'm not sure about that.
I know that they've been around long enough that I think they're technically all the first Marvel characters within
Right.
that.
I just mean the jury's out for whether I enjoy that. But,
Just you and me talking like we're not on a podcast. I fell
I
asleep
know.
and then said,
Let's
and I
just
haven't
talk about
picked it back
Marvel.
up.
Oh yeah, I wrote a middle grade book.
Well, everybody likes a nice little Marvel diversion. The
Yeah.
question I wanted to ask about the structure of this novel is because there's a magical incident, shall we say, that happens in the forest that's going to be thematically important that we're going to revisit later.
Right.
We agree that the inciting incident is more or less the death,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't open at a funeral. We don't start with the inciting incident. There's
Right.
a bit of fuse that leads up to that explosion. I don't know if that's the right metaphor for this.
I
I
like
have
it.
ideas why you did that, but I want to hear from the author herself. Why'd you do that?
Um, I hadn't done it as ended up in the book, and I was asked to do more. I was told by my editor that we need to see Ruby and Daisy on the page more. We really need to really like get their friendship, so that when the unthinkable happens, you really get the loss. It's not just like this. So like the reader experiences the loss because they see this wonderful friend who they've started to really like because she's a likable character. She's a little magical herself, right? And then she's gone like that. And it takes time to do that. Um, it takes time to kind of like bring your reader in to care. You can't do that like in a chapter, I don't think. And well, maybe I did think that, and then I was told, no, you can't write more. So I did.
So, how did you and your editor then decide how much lead time prior to your inciting incident was necessary to make sure the reader felt that loss?
It wasn't like write 20 more pages. It was just more like we need to see this and we need to see that and we need to see more of this. And I don't really remember. I think I also moved some stuff around. Like maybe I took some stuff that I had written as flashbacks and moved it up front. So a lot of it was not a lot, but I think some of it, maybe like a third of that beginning, was stuff that I had Daisy remembering. And instead of remembering it, we did it as being in it. So
Of course, if we're reading it and it's a flashback and we already know who's going to survive and who's not, that puts us at a little bit of a distance. Now we don't want to get attached because we know what's coming. Whereas if you do it before, then we
right.
experience it without, assuming we haven't read the back cover and listened to this podcast. we're reading it unaware that this thing is coming, which so are the girls.
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of how it is in life, right? A lot of times you just don't know that something like that's going to happen. It just whether it's a death or there are surprises that aren't good surprises in life that happens. And I think that any tools we can give kids and grown-ups to help us navigate that kind of stuff